Oh my God. I don't know what I'm doing. Um, so there's a new version of OBS. It's OBS 29. I think just did 29.0.2. Some minor fixes in there. And there's a new version of the KPI 3.2. I think it's 3.23. And I wanted to cover a few things. First, um, I don't know. This is like total inception. Well, not total inception. It could get worse. We could be working on someone else's computer. But I'm using OBS 27.1 and recording to stream this right now. And I'm showing you OBS 27.2, which is what I was using for last several live streams. And then we are going to update to OBS 29 and see what happens. First, in your old version of OBS, if you use the Windows installer, you should just be able to update, boom, done. If you did it with a zip file in what's called portable mode, you should be able to unzip the new version and it should just work. Depending on what you're doing, you may need to export your scene collection and import it into your new one. And that worked wonderfully well for me. And that's just right here, the scene collection. And I'm on the one that I want. Just export. Where's the export? There's export. And we'll just give it pick a place to put it. Put it on my D drive and my backups. You see, I've got a number of exports here, so we'll just do it. Export for YouTube demo. We'll save that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kill off this version of OBS. So let's just close that. And we are going to go to the OBS downloads. I also put a number of links in the description of this video, some of the things that we're going to be using. And we will go. Dice Grinders are now. What's up, man? We will get your live chat onto the screen here soon, I hope. OBS download. We'll just Google that. Download OBS Studio, pick your operating system, and you can do the installer. In my case, I do the zip, and I've already got it downloaded, but here's what it looks like. It just starts, boom, downloading. And when that's finished, which will be in about 39 seconds if we had to wait, but like I said, I've already got it. The OBS Studio 29.0.2. And open that up with, most of you probably use Windows Explorer. I use a program called 7-Zip File Manager, but I'll do the Windows Explorer version just so you can see what it looks like. And we got these right here. So, how does that work? Extract all, and this is, I don't like using the Windows Explorer version because it is it can make a mess of things if you don't know the structure. So I'm gonna go to my OBS folder. I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new folder. I just give it the version number of OBS that I'm gonna be working with. Back to my downloads, back to my OBS Studio 2902, open with Windows Explorer, take all those files, and I'm just going to drag them into that new folder I just made right here. And it's unpacking the zip file. Looks like, wow, that's going to take a while. AZ Crap Shooters, what's up, man? We are talking about OBS and KPI updates. And while that's doing that, I'm going to come over here to the KPI. And for those that don't know, this is the master copy, KPI 3.2.3. That's the one that we provide a link for. I don't think I linked it in the description of this video. I'll have to edit that. And also in the Skype group, of course. And to make your own personal private copy that you can play with, just go to the File menu, make a copy, pick a place where you want to save it. And in my case, I've got a folder called KPI for PSO. And we'll give this a name. We'll call it Demo KPI and go from there. That will then open the new document into a new window. And it looks like we're done extracting. So let's go back to OBS. Yeah, I'm going to be all over the place, guys. The 29.0.2. Now we want to go in here to the bin folder, the 64-bit folder, find our executable. It's obs64.exe. I'm just going to drag this out onto my desktop. Create shortcut here. I'm going to go ahead and rename that. 2903. And we also want to right click and go to properties. And if I stumble on some of these things, forgive me. I'm in on Windows 11 for just a little while and I'm still getting used to all this garbage. All right, on the target, you can see we've got that. We just want to add a parameter, a command line parameter to that for portable. Now, if you don't run portable as is, don't worry about it. If you want to learn more about OBS Portable, just do a quick YouTube search. There are a ton of channels with a ton of tutorials. I don't want to get into it. But basically, what it does is it will store all of your scene collections and your sources and all that junk within the program folder itself instead of under your personal profile folder. This enables you to have multiple versions of OBS running or available to you at all times, which is kind of cool. So you've been cruising along with 27, it's working great. You want to play with 29. You can do that without clobbering what you had before. Let's go ahead and apply that. And we'll hit OK. Now we can run OBS 2903. Excuse me. All right. This brings us into a wizard. You can skip it if you want, but just zip through it and go. Base canvas. And for what we do, 30 frames per second is good. If you have low bandwidth, you might want to change it to 1280 by 720, but I don't recommend it unless you absolutely have to. Okay, we're going to switch to YouTube. And YouTube OBS has a new feature where you can actually connect OBS to your YouTube account to streamline going live. I personally don't use it. I found it to be not quite as flexible. So you can do it or not, and it doesn't make any difference. Stream key. Let me grab my a stream key. Ooh, I don't know if that's going to work. We'll try it anyway. No, that's all. Yeah, if it messes up my stream, it messes up my stream. Next. I think it's sending data to the YouTube server. I don't know exactly what it does here. We'll just let it do its thing. Come on, baby. I think it did mess up my screen somehow. The stream. Apply settings, close. I'm not sure. I don't know what the heck this thing did. Give me a second here. Stream's current bit rate is higher than recommended. Oh, oh boy. Um, Can you guys still hear me? Interesting. This is no bueno. Yeah, okay. Excellent connection, but it's still completely hosed up. This is no good. Um, hey, now we're back. Okay. So note to self, if you're going to do an OBS install live while you're doing it, don't reuse the same stupid stream key. Good to know, guys. All right. So this is OBS 29. Um, it's got a new default skin. If you want it to look like what it used to look like, just go to View. I think it's View. No, Options. Settings. They call it Settings, General, Skin, Theme. This is the new default. It's called Yummy. Just change it back to dark. And look at that. We're back to what it should look like. How about that? Now, showed you very quickly how to export the scene collection. And here's how you import it. And watch this. This is a brand new install of OBS. It's blank. It doesn't know anything about anything anymore. So we are going to import the scene collection that we had. OBS can automatically, now we know where it's at, maybe. On my D drive in my backup folder. There's my export for the YouTube demo. And we will, oh, cancel, import. Should take just a, does it not want to import? I swear to God, I did this like 3 times and it worked just fine. Oh, there it is. You just have to switch back. You have to switch to it. How about that? So there's my background video. It's starting to load the KPI. KPI may not load yet. I might have to do something a little bit. Might have to get it to Google first or get it logged into Google. So let's do that. And the easiest way I found to do that, custom browser docs. And I know I'm all over the place, guys. I apologize. Create that custom browser doc and apply. Yep, it wants to do that. Give me a second. And it's going to hit my phone for 2-factor. Maybe. Have to tell it to get it again. There we go. Come on. Oh, it's actually doing it through Windows now. This is weird. Your phone can't locate your device. Try another way. I am really confused. Google keeps making this difficult. Yes, it's me. Okay. Now we've got that. And look at that. As soon as I authenticated the KPI, the old KPI popped right up. Love it. So we're done with that. And you can see there I've got some stuff going on. And getting switched from the old version of OBS to the new version of OBS really is that simple. Now, let's do this from scratch, because I know y'all love doing it from scratch. But before we do that, I need to install some plugins. So let's close this. And the plugins that we need to do, let me get rid of some of this noise. Open a new window. Ooh, open a new tab. Windows Explorer does tabs now. That's nice. Maybe play with that. So we need the I've already got the NDI runtime installed, of course, but we need to install the NDI plugin here. If I can find it, downloads. OBS NDI 410. You just download that right off the OBS website. Just drag this stuff in here and drop it in. And I want a couple more plugins. Source switcher, again, open up the zip file, drag them over. New plugin called Source Dock that I'm not sure of yet, but it seems to be okay. And finally, I use a plugin called Source Copy. You don't need all these plugins. The NDI is good enough for Skype and I think Zoom. So go ahead and close that. We'll close that. We're done with it. 2903, launch it back up. We'll have access. And that's loading. It will load eventually, but we are going to start with a brand new scene collection. And just call it new LFC. I'll rename it later to something more meaningful. And let's see. How do we want to start this? I'm going to start this by setting this up the way I like it. And I like to put my scenes over here, kind of like my sources next to it. Got my audio mixer. Don't need scene transitions. Go away. Oh, so go away. There we go. And I'm going to add a YouTube chat to this thing. Give me a second. Let me grab a URL. Well, let me show you how I do it. So in Studio, you get your chat window, and we're going to pop out the chat. There's your chat. You guys can say hi to yourselves for a moment. We'll do that. Copy the URL and close that. Docs, custom browser docs, YouTube chat. Paste that in there and apply that. And hey, look, there's YouTube chat in a doc in OBS. And I never have to leave OBS to do things, which is kind of cool. Okay. I am going to cheat here a little bit, guys, because I don't have NDI, I don't have Skype running, but I want to bring all my NDI sources in. And I did this earlier using a plugin called Source Copy. And once you have the plugin installed, it is here in your tools menu. So Source Copy, we're going to load a scene. It's going to ask to browse, and if I can, now I need to remember where I saved it. I think it's there. Yep, NDI sources.json. NDI is a pain in the ass because you have to know what the Skype handle is in order to do it, and I've just got me a nice little library here going on. So that's that. Again, I cheated. Create my main scene. We're going to call it program for right now. I want to create another scene, call it background, and trying to remember what the other scenes were that I do. I'm doing all of this off the cuff. Did not write a script, did not take notes, so feel free to ask questions, guys. All right, in the background, which is a scene that I use to include all other scenes, is where I add all of my audio sources and whatnot. So let's see, add audio input capture and add my Bluetooth, which is a Plantronics headset. We'll hit OK. You see, boom, now I've got audio and I can include that anywhere. If I switch over to the program, my main scene, you see I've got no audio. So all I do there is add a scene, and I'm going to add existing background. OK. And now I've got my Bluetooth audio in there. And then that's also where I put the animated background. I put the, and I don't think I can add the NDI audio. Let's try it. NDI source. I think I will have to wait till my next Skype call in order to do this. Yeah, I don't have anything right now, so. But the NDI audio is also where I would put this. And here you can see that that popped up as an NDI audio source, except I put that in the program and not the background, so. I did it wrong. Add existing, NDI audio, okay. I can get rid of that off my main scene. Okay, here's where the fun begins, the KPI. I think we just made a copy of the new KPI. Demo KPI, yep, we sure did. And I'm gonna come over here to the display tab. And I'm gonna use the display tab just right. I know Arnell, he butchers the thing. I've butchered the thing. I've got another video on how to safely do that without screwing everything up. Of course, it's still really easy to screw up, but I'm just gonna use this as is today. So copy the URL out of your address bar in the browser. Come back to OBS. We're gonna add a browser. We're going to name that KPI 3.2.3. Hit OK. Paste in the URL. Set the width and the height. Hit OK. And this should start loading here in just a moment. Boom, there's our display. Some of the components that we're interested in are the leaderboard, tally board, the big board, top board, whatever you want to call it. Want to include roll history, whether horizontal or vertical, and maybe a couple other things, the gauges and whatnot. So I'm going to make a few copies of this first. So I'll hit copy, paste reference, paste reference, paste reference. All right. Now the next thing I do is I just go and I create a group, add one of them, just one to a group. We'll just call it leaderboard, good enough. We'll group the next one, call it roll history, vertical. We'll just call it roll history. Group that one, call it gauges. And I'm going to actually now lock these guys so that I cannot mess with them while I'm doing other things. I'm going to hide the ones that I'm not going to mess with. So the only one I'm going to see right now is just this one here for the leaderboard. And I'm going to come in here first, use the Alt key with the mouse, drag your little arrows around to do your rough cropping. Just get it close. I don't know what I just dragged. Something's supposed to be locked and it's not. Roll history. Oh, I ain't worried about that. And that's why I lock them so that and hide them so I don't mess with them too bad. Okay, right click, we're going to transform. We're going to fine tune we're going to edit transform. We're going to use this to fine tune the cropping. And the other thing you can do while you're doing this, if you do full screen projector, I want to put it on this screen for a moment, but then I'm going to move it to the other screen. So you can see you get a really nice big view of what you got there. And if you display that on a second monitor, then you can see exactly when your cropping is complete. So let me do that. Full screen projector, there's that. And now I come in here and just use my arrow keys to fix my cropping. There's the left, there's the right, there's the top, and there's the bottom. I can close that, click off of that source, and you can see all the magenta has gone away. So no chroma key or anything necessary for this particular item. Now if I can get a grip on it, move that into place wherever you want it. And of course you can resize as you want. So we'll go there. Next up is let's go ahead and lock that so we don't mess with it anymore. Next up is the roll history. So we'll show the roll history. And in this case, I think I'm going to do the vertical. Again, Alt, use your mouse and the Alt key to do your rough cropping. And we'll do this particular version of the roll history. And again, I get the rough cropping done with the mouse, and then I can right click, go into transform. If my mouse doesn't escape me, edit transform. And again, I'm just going to use the arrow keys to adjust all my cropping. There's the left, there's the right, here goes the top and the bottom. And I'm sorry you can't see the arrow keys. And because my focus is on my other monitor is why I use the arrow keys rather than the mouse, because if you're not looking at it, the mouse can slip and all of a sudden you're clicking on nothing. Then you're wondering why the hell nothing's happening. In this case, for this particular roll history, we do need to apply the filter for the chroma key. So right click, go to filters, and we are going to add a filter, chroma key, and you're going to see, why am I missing a 4 right here? Am I really missing a 4? Oh, because of the chroma key. Ah, so look at that. So the chroma key is set to green. So it's wiping out the greens. I'd been here freaking out for no reason. The magenta, change that. And you really want to change this down to about 200. Otherwise, it eats too far into the red and you can end up with some really seriously faded colors. So we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll move our roll history over here to where you want it to be. All right, what's next? The gauges. Let's go ahead and lock the roll history, show the gauges. In this one, you can really see what the chroma key ends up doing. Hey, what's up, Crooked River? All right, so again, use the Alt key on your keyboard. I think it might be the Command key on a Mac. I don't know. I don't use Mac too much, but we'll use the Alt and the arrow to just drag that up and do your rough cropping. And right click, transform, and I could be doing Control E right here, but I wanted to show you the menus. Keyboard shortcuts are a godsend if you can get in the habit of using them. All right, so now we're going to crop the left a little bit. And this time I'm not going to crop it super close because I'm going to have to use the chroma key anyway, and there's no way to really crop into a circle. But that all looks pretty good right there. We'll close that and again go to filters, which should be on your toolbar. And we'll add the chroma key. And if you watch close, you see my gauges do have some red in it. And watch what happens when we add the chroma key and set it to magenta. And I've seen a few channels that don't get this quite right. And that's okay. You can still make out the information, so it's all good. So there's the magenta. You can see that now the red has turned into kind of a brown. And again, if you scroll that down somewhere around 200, 220, 250, just whatever your works for you. And there we have nice bright reds again. So there's our gauges. Now, on to fun stuff. Let's add YouTube chat. Um, I'm going to do the quick and dirty version. If you search Google for OBS YouTube chat CSS, that's Charlie Sierra Sierra, stands for Cascading Style Sheet. There are some style sheet generators out there that will transform your YouTube chat browser source into something that is looks better. I'll just put it that way, that it looks better. So again, where's my YouTube studio or YouTube studio. So you're in your studio and you want to get that. So pop out your chat. In the chat pop out, you'll have the URL right here in the address bar. Just highlight it, copy, go ahead and close that back, get that back out of the way. And we're going to come in here and we're going to add another browser source. Call it YouTube chat. Hit OK. Paste in the URL and the width. You have to play with this to find what works for you. What works for me is probably, and we'll just do this for this, 400, and I want it to be about twice as tall as it is wide. We'll do 400 by 800. Hit OK. And you can see this is your guys' chat that you're talking to me with right now. And it also includes, you can see that it does include, where I type the welcome. And I don't think we get rid of the welcome and the top chat stuff at the top there. So again, we'll use the Alt key with your mouse, and we'll just kind of get rid of all that junk. And just bring that down to whatever you need. And that should be a pretty decent size. Maybe not great, but it should be a decent size to work with. If somebody can type in a comment, you can see that that'll scroll nicely and should update fairly quick. And while we're waiting for that, let's set up our NDI sources. And there's Crooked River Craps with another hello. Back to the program. So when I do my setup, I like to keep aspect ratios to be correct. And so towards that end, I'm going to bring in the guest shooters in such a way. Actually, before I do that, let's actually set up my own personal feed. So add a new scene, call it my feed. And here we've got a blank scene. I'm going to add a source. We need a video capture. Oh, come on, stay with me. Video capture device. And my overhead camera that I'm going to be looking for. My Logitech Brio. And there it is. So now because of the way, that brought it in a wrong aspect ratio. So this is where you can have fun with your camera. Configure video. I forget where this is at. It's not there. Resolution. Oh, set that to custom. We'll set our resolution. I do have a 4K camera, so we can bring that in at 4K, 3840 by 2160. The other one, this 4096, is slightly wider. Probably would look better if if we were in that aspect ratio, that would look better on most mobile devices, but we don't care about people with iPhones and whatnot. There's my 4K feed. I need to resize this thing, get it back into something resembling sense. It's upside down, so I'm going to do a transform, rotate 180 degrees, and there's that. All right, you guys do not need to see all this junk off the side of my table. So again, I'm going to use the crop key. I'm going to try to keep the aspect ratio. I actually do this. I calculate out what I want to do here. In this case, I'm just doing the sloppy version. Not a big deal. You can do it either pixel perfect or sloppy. It really doesn't matter. And of course, well, the other way I could have done it was just resize the video image outside of the bounds of the scene. And that would look kind of like that, maybe. And that looks good enough. Let's add my dice cam. We'll add another video capture device and show you guys how I do this. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Cancel, delete, copy. You copy your camera. I'm being kind of a retard here. And then we're going to group this because we're going to apply a transform to this. We don't want it to affect the other. And so instead of the transform on the camera itself, we'll apply the transform on the grouping for that. So right click, transform, edit transform, and actually before we do that, let's do our quick and dirty cropping. Actually, we don't even have to do any transform. We just do the hand cropping. That in a nutshell is dice cam. Super quick, super simple. I know a lot of people have done it, and it's not too difficult to figure out once you got it. So there you go. There's my feed and I use this to send to Arnell when I'm on the Wednesday night LFC, or if George is hosting or somebody else is hosting. This is the scene that I actually use with the virtual camera, and you can set that here, the cogwheel down here for the virtual camera. I hope you guys can see my mouse right down here, and we just set the output type to scene. Select the scene is going to be my feed, and OK. If we start the virtual camera, that's what you're going to see. No matter what else OBS is doing, this is the scene that it will send out for the virtual camera. That way, when I am on Arnell's show, he doesn't have to see my KPI, and it's not cluttering things up. Okay. Now the hard part. This is going to get really crazy, guys. I will try to keep an eye on the chat. If you have any questions, do ask. Please, please, please ask. As I mentioned before, I cheated. If you came in late, I did cheat and I imported all my NDI sources. These are all the video feeds I'm going to get from Skype. I'm slowly building up a small library of them. You can see I've got a number of people already. And what I'm going to do here is actually hang on just a moment, guys. Ooh, yuck. Apparently I only got about 15 minutes to do this, so I'm only going to do a couple of them. I'm going to add a new scene. I'm going to call it shooter switcher. And on this scene, let's go ahead and add another one. NDI1, and add another one, NDI2. And just for giggles, we'll add NDI3. And in the in NDI1, we'll go ahead and add our NDI source, NDI source, add existing, and let's add Arnell in here. Where is Arnell? There's Arnell. And this gets really wonky when you do it ahead of time. NDI, if it doesn't have an active feed, defaults to 0 by 0 pixels. So to get that and to make sure that everything is going to look correct, we're going to go in here to the source, right click, go to transform, edit transform. We're going to stretch to bounds, and we're going to set it to the full size of the scene, 1920 and 80. And so you see the red outline. Arnell's video source, if he calls in right now, would be 100% filling up that screen. Go ahead and close that. NDI2, let's go ahead and add an NDI source. And let's add, well, I don't think I've got any of the rest of you in here, so we'll just add Alfredo. And there's Alfredo's source. And again, the transform. And instead of typing this in the same way every time, well, I'm going to do it, but you can copy and paste transforms. But again, for the sake of repetition, we're going to bounding box stretch to bounds. We're going to set the bounding box size to the full size of the canvas, which is 1920 by 1080. And there you go. Now, if Alfredo were to call right now, I would get his full video feed. It would fill up the entire thing. Sometimes it'll only fill up for 80p, sometimes 720p. In this case, it's going to be the full 1080p. NDI3, and this is where it's not actually NDI. I'm going to add my feed, hit OK, and there's me. And that's already full size. I don't have to worry too much about it. I'm going to go into the shooter switcher, and this is getting into a really advanced area of OBS called nested scenes. You're including one scene in another in another. It's like those Russian dolls. How do you do the graphs to transition to the other graphs in the leaderboards? I am going to have to save that for another day, man, because I've got like 10 minutes left before the wife is going to be burning my rice or whatever we got going on for dinner. But I will tell you this, it is called Scene Switcher, and it's what I'm going to show you right now. So the shooter switcher, we're going to add, oh, come on, add, or it's called Source Switcher, excuse me, Source Switcher. Michael Fryer Jr. on his channel, he is, I think that's where I got this from. And I saw him demo this and I was like, oh my God, that is perfect for what I need. So I think it's going to complain about that. Yeah, because I've already got a name, something by that name. And this name really doesn't make any difference anyway. So here's where this thing is really, really raw. It's very powerful, very easy to use, but at the same time, it's not very forgiving. You have to manually type in the sources that you want to include. So NDI1, NDI2, NDI3. We'll hit OK. Oh, never mind. We don't want to loop them. On these sources, you can do what's called a time switch. And so, Arnell, to answer your question, doing the transitioning the graphs and whatnot, I'm using the time switch every 7-8 seconds, and they're set on a loop. Hang on just a moment. Okay, we got news. I was joking about the wife burning the rice, and it turns out she forgot to turn it down, and so she did burn it. So we got to start all over on the rice. No big deal. That gives me some extra time. Anyway, oh my God, I can't believe that. Anyways, so you set your sources, you put them on a loop, put them on a time switch, and this will cycle through those sources automatically, which is freaking cool. And that's how I did that. In this case, we don't want the shooters just, rotating every 30 seconds, every 10 seconds, whatever. We want them to rotate when we want them to rotate. So we'll hit OK. There's that. And then we have to bind some hotkeys to make that think. Let me see here. It should actually be showing something already. I guess not. We're going to have to definitely put some hotkeys on here. And if you got the Elgato Stream Deck or one of the other Stream Deck alternatives, like I think there's an Android and iPhone apps for those that do something similar, um, do that. But we'll just go into settings, go to hotkeys, scroll all the way down till you find this thing. Should be in here. Shooter switcher source, right there it is. So NDI1, and the keys that I use is Alt number pad 1, Alt number pad 2, and Alt number pad 3. It does not interfere with the Google Sheets, so when I do those, and I'll show you that here in just a second, we'll apply that. Hit OK. And if I do Alt 3, it should show my camera. There it is. Beautiful. And actually, we could have done something a little different here. Add text GDI, call it name 1, NDI 1, put that there. We'll copy, paste a duplicate, call it NDI 2. Go back to the shooter switcher. Now you can see Alt 1, bring up NDI 1, NDI 2, and me. And I use my Alt in the number pad. So the only keys when I'm usually hosting LFC, the only keys I'm playing with are on the number pad of my keyboard, and then the Alt key when I need to switch shooters. Now, we need to get that into the main feed. So we'll go back into, what do we want to go into? The program. So I need to close and fix a couple things here real quick. All right. So now I want to add a new source, add a scene as a source, add existing, and we're going to add the shooter switcher scene. We'll hit OK. That's gone full screen on me. We'll do that. Put that there somewhere in the middle where we want it. And once again, if I use my hotkey, get off me. If I use my hotkeys, Alt 1 for NDI 1, Alt 2 for NDI 2, Alt 3 for NDI 3. And that's how I switch between all of them. I guess we got time. Now we got time to show you the stats, the stat switcher that I use. I got to remember how I did that though. Add stats. Add. Call it top 5. Add stats in the chart. Come back to program feed for a second. I'm going to copy this source because again, it's all on the same thing. So instead of doing the screen capture and all that, I am using the browser source. So we'll copy the browser source. Come in here, stats top 5. We're going to paste it in here. And boom, there that is. And again, so that we don't mess up with it, because the browser source is a single source and it is referenced in multiple scenes. So you do not want to transform the source itself. You want to group it and then transform the group. So we'll group selected items. We'll call that group top 5. And then we can go ahead and do our quick and dirty cropping. Get that down there. A little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5. And again, now I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, but again, it's right click, transform, edit transform, or Control E. That brings up my transform. I'm going to bring my projector back up so I can see what the heck I'm doing. And we're going to play with the cropping. So click in there for the left, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys and keep tapping the arrow key till all the magenta is gone. Same thing on the right. Get that kind of pixel perfect. Top. Get all that magenta gone. And on the bottom, I don't have any magenta, but I do have that wonderful little white line, grid line. And there we go. Close that. Okay. Go to the chart. Oh, I want to do something else here first. I'm sorry. Let's go to transform. And again, edit transform. Bounding box. I'm going to make some, you have to figure out what numbers work for you, but you want all of these eventually to be exactly the same. So position of this, we're going to set that to, I don't know, 10 pixels from the left and 250 pixels from the top, maybe 220. I don't know. It's going to be, it's going to be whatever it is. So there's that bounding box. We want to make for absolute certain that these sources are going to be exactly the same all over. So let's just initially set that. That's too big. We'll make it 320 by 240. Aspect ratio is off, but you get the idea. That'll work. How about 320 by 200? We'll close that. And go over to the stats chart. Let's copy that first. Copy the browser source. We'll paste it back in, paste as a reference. Right click, and we're going to group that again. We'll call that the chart. Again, Control E to edit. Oh, let's crop it. Let's do the quick crop first. And I had to think there for a second which chart I was going to grab. We'll grab the black chart because that's the one I prefer. Now we can do a Control E and fine tune the cropping. So knock all the magenta off the left, knock all the white off the right, magenta off the top, and off the bottom. And that source looks good. Now we want this source, that the chart and this to look exactly the same. We need to be the same dimensions in the same location and everything. And so what we'll do there is copy, go to, and this is what I was talking about earlier, you can copy and paste transforms. So we'll copy the transform from here. I'm going to paste it onto this. So right click, transform, and paste. And that's not what I wanted. Oh, I know why it did that. It did that because it copied the cropping data too. I'm a moron. That's all right. We'll go back in there. Use the Alt key, zoom that back out so we can see some of this. This is a little bit weird to do it this way, but trust me, this is cropping. It's just stretching it back out to these things. Now let's find, that was the weirdest way of cropping something, changing the cropping of some I've ever done. Get rid of all the magenta again. Close that. And there's the chart. And it probably does need to be a little bit bigger, but I'm going through the process of doing it, not so much focusing on getting pixel perfect. Does that answer your question, Arnell? Am I getting on the right track here for you? I hope so. So now we come back to our stats scene, and this is where we're going to add the switcher. Image, do we want to add the source switcher? Call it stats switcher. Sources. That's top 5. Sources, add another source. There's the stats chart. So there's those 2 items. And this time we are going to leave it on loop. We're going to set it up on a time switch every 5 seconds. And so every 5 seconds that should switch. And so, yeah, so if, you have a lot of stuff on your stream, Arnell. So if you found, space where you can put 3 or 4 different things in the same space and then rotate between them, this would be awesome. But I warn you, I don't know how much CPU this uses. It shouldn't use much, but you never know. So now we come back here. Oh, we have to do one other. Ooh, this is where I ran into trouble with this, including this screen in here, background. No, program. Let's move this chat window down and see if we can add in that stat switcher. Add scene stats. Hey, there it is. Look at that. And so that's the basics. And I will probably end up, I'm doing this for a demo. If I was doing this for real, I would probably spend another 2 or 3 hours getting everything absolutely pixel perfect. And what I mean by that, let's go ahead and close this out. And I'm going to bring up my other. This is the one I used this morning. Just to dissect this a little bit. So this is what I had. I have my background. In my background scene, this is where I've got my casino noise background. I bring in my Skype audio. I've got my background loop, the swirling clouds, and my Bluetooth audio source. And that way I can include that background, and up here I call it the HUD in this version. And so now I've got one source instead of 4. It kind of collapses things. I've got my switcher scene, which is this right here. And this is the shooter switcher I was talking about. And again, I've still got my hotkeys 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you see here, I've got all these sources or all these scenes, NDI. I do have my keyboard mapped also so that my F1 key, my function keys are remapped to the alt whatever, but I don't use it. But that's why they're named the way they are. My top 5, last 5, and my totals. I've got this all on the magenta with the chroma key. And the reason for that is because I've got my background video going. So I've, the live background image going on. And I need of course, the stat switcher to be on top of that background. YouTube chat. And when I talk about the pixel perfect part of all this, I lost your chat, guys. Oh, it's over on my other screen. I've got exactly 10 pixels, to the left and right of this roll bar, the leaderboard, 10 pixels between all these different widgets so that you get a little bit of that moving background image. And that's just me being I don't want to say OCD, but that's just me, the perfectionism that I suffer from. Um, there are a lot of things that bother me, and if I can't do anything about it, I let it slide. But if I can do something about it, I absolutely want to. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. I think there's just two people watching. Any other questions? Anything else you want to see? Here's my intro scene where I can just throw up a quick thumbnail. There's the HUD. Added a video to that for when I host a Demon Dog. Um, and again, I use this, the way this is named with the dashes and all that acts as a separator in my scene list, but I also use it as a container to actually hold all my NDI sources so that when I, come in for each shooter, I can just update and edit those sources real quick. Same thing here, there's the background. Um, I put the source switcher there. I forget how I did all this. Background and switcher. Oh, I pulled the stat switcher source component in directly instead of creating a separate scene for it. That's why I was confused. So, anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to get off here and get ready. Does the NDI slow me down? It doesn't. Okay, so backstory there. If you remember when I first started playing with this crap, dude, if I had two people on with NDI, it just murdered my laptop. My laptop is actually a Xeon processor, uh, 4-core Xeon processor, uh, 32 gigs of RAM, and it just killed it. It overheated it, and it shut down. And I'm like, this is unusable. So I broke out my old gaming rig, which was an old AMD FX 8-core, and it had 16 gigs of RAM. I bought an NVIDIA video card so I could do hardware encoding, and that thing did okay for the most part, but every once in a while the CPU was pegging at like 70 to 80%, and I could not figure it out. And yeah, and it was only when I had Skype and NDI running, could not figure it out. So I called Dell. Um, I'll get back to you, Brian. So I pulled up Dell. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I just need a new computer. It's time. Let's just get it done. So I got a brand new, like 11th gen i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. I threw the NVIDIA video card I bought. I threw it in there. I imported my scene collection that I already had set up. Everything was working perfectly. It just wasn't working well. Um, Brought that in, dude. My brand new 11th gen i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. The CPU is running at like 70, 80%. And I'm like, this is not right. So I just tore everything apart, put it back together. And my CPU usage when I'm streaming and whatnot now hovers around 20 to 25, maybe 30%. And my bandwidth usage, I only use, where did I post it? In the KPI channel, I think. I had 7 guests last week or the week before, and I only used like 5 megs of download bandwidth and only a few megs of upload. It actually surprised me how little bandwidth. Um, so try the NDI again, but do it completely from scratch, Arnell, and see what happens. I'm sure you have no problem rounding up 3 or 4 people to help you test. Um, if you don't have the bandwidth to support it though, or there's so many things to take into consideration. Um, what's up, Duracell? So, like I said, I spent over $1,000 on a brand new computer, and the problem persisted. and it was 100% the configuration, and I still to this day I don't know why. I don't understand because I thought I rebuilt it the same way. Oh, Jeff Mid Atlantic Craps came in too. Look at that. So yeah, long story. NDI can be a beast because you're doing a lot of processing, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be. It just it is what it is, I guess. Um, let's see, Brian, you asked any suggestions for you on your setup. Honestly, I have not seen a lot of your videos, man, and it's embarrassing to say there's not enough time in the day to catch everybody. Um, but I mean, I think your videos, the ones that I've seen, I think look freaking pretty decent. Let's take a look, see what we got. YouTube, Hawaii crap shooters. Take a look at that. Let's look at your live videos. I don't know what's a good one. That's a trip report. I don't even know which one to look at, man. So there's your layout. Now let me mute this. This is in my ear. Let's see. There's your layout. You've got I don't know recent you got recent shooters. You got your YouTube chat. You got your roll history. You got your leaderboard and a video. I mean, chat. Nothing wrong with it, man. I mean, it's almost identical to my layout. Um, except you got two cameras going on, which I'm not a shooter, so I don't need two cameras. And no, that looks good. And like I said, I'm going to say probably nine out of 10 people, maybe 99 out of 100. They're just going to throw this stuff up there and call it good. You got the chroma key to hide the magenta if you don't want to spend the time getting a pixel perfect crop. Um, it's all just there, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So, and I remember when you were looking at the KPI, you sent me several messages. I know you struggled with it, man. That's crazy. I was like, go watch the videos. Well, you already watched the videos, and I get it. It's like it's a lot to there's a lot that goes into it, and I know I fly through it really really fast. Um, and I know I messed up, and that kind of sucks. So it's Crooked River Craps. You have a YouTube channel, don't you? What's Crooked River got going on? You see, I'm subscribed. See, I can't ever, I don't ever have time to watch anything, but I am subscribed, and mostly it's because I spend all my time watching Hustler Casino Live and the various poker bloggers. I'm more of a poker fan than a craps fan, but I'll take it either way I can get it. Oh, Crooked River, you're not even using the KPI yet, are you? Nothing wrong with nothing wrong with that. Oh, look at that little tiny table. I love it. That is freaking awesome. That is awesome. I actually got a. I think I had to. It didn't survive the move, but I had a little old tabletop craps table thing. It was pretty cool. Kind of useless, but it was cool. It was about probably judging by the chips in that, it's probably about the same size as that. Mid-Atlantic crabs. Jeff, let's go tear your channel apart. Let's look at a live. Wait a minute, you haven't live streamed in like 8 days? Where did you go away? Did you fall off the face of the earth, man? Come on. Oh, you don't do that many lives anyway. There's that. Yeah, Jeff's got it going on. Got the leaderboard up there, and it looks like you're doing chat. Your focus is on the table, and that's all good. There's no wrong way to do this. Got your dice cam up there. Look at that. Roll history over there to the left or to the right, I mean. 5-2, 7 out. We need a shooter. Velocity with Ed and Mark. Oh, nice. Nice, nice. I wish I could afford to travel. Wish I had the time to travel. So, anyways, it looks like we need help with finishing up dinner and Super Bowl snacks. So I'm gonna jump off of here, guys. And thanks for tuning in. Um, if there's any interest, I might do another live just to talk about OBS and the KPI, bringing in Google Sheets and all that junk. If I can talk Jeff or Alfredo into um, helping me, we might get to playing with NDI and Zoom, because it's my understanding that Zoom does support NDI. And if that's the case, and I don't know if Ecamm, I think, is it Ecamm, Jeff? I don't know if that supports NDI sources or not. But the more tools we can put in the arsenal, the better for everybody. So, but hey, Duracell, Crooked, Jeff, Arnell, Brian, all you guys, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you all later. VMix, yep, there you go. All right, take care, guys.